Okay, so tonight we're here to talk about how to negotiate and secure discounted deals. The reason why we've brought this topic up is because a lot of you have asked, you know, how do you actually go about getting the seller to agree to a discounted price? Okay, so the agenda, we're going to go first of all through the social drivers. So, how different personalities communicate. We're going to look at the art of persuasion. We're then going to end with really an end-to-end negotiation style, how you can, negotiate with an estate agent, and I'll show some live examples of me negotiating with estate agents. And then we'll just end with how you can use an offer to purchase agreement to secure your price. So starting off with social drivers. Now, social drivers is quite an interesting concept because we're all different, right? Every single one of us has got a different motivation or reason for doing whatever we are doing. And that's what this social drivers, sorry about that recording. This is just the software I use to record. Okay. Now, social drivers is a framework for us to understand how different people interact. Okay. And I think you'd agree with me that everybody has got a different communication style. Some people are extroverted, they're very loud, they love being around people. And then you have other people who are maybe a bit more introverted, they're a bit more, quiet and calm, maybe a bit more shy. You got people who love tasks and love processes and love systems, step by step. And then you have other people who are more worried about how people are feeling and what people are seeing. So you've got people focused, task focused. You've got extroverts, you've got introverts. Everybody's got a very different way of being. And then on top of that, we've got different communication mediums, right? So when we're working with a distressed seller or with an estate agent or with an investor, it could be that we are writing to them and we need to try and convince them over an email or over a WhatsApp. It could be verbal. We could have the luxury of talking to them over Zoom or Skype or on a phone call, or even visual. We might be able to meet them in person and see, what they're saying with their body. Are they open or are they closed? That kind of thing. Okay, so now essentially, this framework that I'm going to share with you is the four different types of social drivers that you get in the world. Now, before we get into the actual four, we need to talk about the different frameworks or the different parameters. Now, first of all, on the top of this framework, you've got what we call the excitable people. And this is just code word for those who are extroverted. They love being around people, they love talking, they're excitable, they're very loud, and etc. On the bottom side of this framework, you've got what we call the even keels. Now, this is more your introverts, logical, maybe more reserved would be the right word. On the left, you've got your task orientated. On the right, you've got your people orientated. Remember that we all have these four in us, but depending on which one we're more like, will tell us a lot about the person. Okay, so the first sort of social drive or social personality is the dominant style. Okay, this is someone who's extroverted, excitable, task orientated. So they love moving quickly. They are very decisive. They're efficient, intense, results driven, competitive, risk tolerant. Right. So these are like we often call them the challengers or the CEOs. These are people who like to make decisions and are focused on results. Right. Now, if we go on to the right hand side, these are the excitable extroverts, but they're more people orientated. So they're not that worried about the results and the tasks and the decisions like the dominant style. They're more about influencing. You see, and this is where I would probably put myself because it's more about, I love relationships. I love being optimistic, lively. I think I'm pretty outgoing. I love the people. For me, the people make so much sense. I love doing these events because I'm with people. I get to interact. I get to teach. I get to share what I love and I get to influence. That's what the influence is about. If we now go to the bottom part of the framework, you've got the conscientious. Now, these are sometimes called your analytical people. The people who are very detailed, number orientated. They want the facts, systematic, logical, reserved, cautious, risk averse. This is somebody who likes to be in the background, who likes to analyze the deals but doesn't like to be in the front. Okay. And then if we go to our last social drive or social personality, you've got what we call our steady person. This is someone who's not easily swayed. They're a bit more reserved. They focus on the people, but they like to go with the flow. So cooperative, relaxed, patient, support orientated, friendly, and thorough. Now, when you're looking at these four different drives, social drives, there's a different approach to each one. If you go to the dominant person, you've got to have a very specific approach on how you're going to influence them. If you've got a distressed seller, for example, someone who's, let's say, maybe they're going through some sort of financial difficulty and they need to sell their house quickly. Now, if somebody's in the dominant style, that means they want results quickly. They don't want you to and ah. They want you to send an offer to purchase quickly because they want to make decisions. They want to move forward. They want to be quick. Now, if you're working with a conscientious person, you have to go with the exact opposite approach. You can't try and rush them because they're all about the systems, logic. They want to have specific details, facts, etc. So, can you see how knowing the person you're dealing with, what their social drive is the first step to being able to negotiate a good deal? You can't just walk up to anybody and try and speak to them. You have to first understand who that person is. What's going to make them move? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the art of persuasion. It's about understanding each person as a unique individual, speaking to them on their terms, and bringing them to your understanding of what the fair offer price is. Okay, so that is step number one. Understand social drives. Now, number two, we need to understand different persuasion techniques. Now, in this section, I'm going to take you through 6 different persuasion techniques. Let's get started. So, the art of persuasion. Now, the first thing to note is that it's an art. It's not necessarily a science. Science means I will do this and I will get this result and I can repeat it. So, it's the same thing every single time. And art is you will try something, it might work, it might not. That doesn't mean that your technique was incorrect. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So it's not a science, it's an art. It's something that is continuously something you have to work on. So the six ways to persuade. Number one, scarcity, reciprocity, social proof, liking, authority, and consistency. Scarcity, reciprocity, social proof, liking, authority, and consistency. Let's look at them in a little bit more detail. Number one, scarcity. Now, the rule here is that there is a higher perceived value when something is limited. Now, almost every person knows the scarcity tactic. It's the buy now before you run out of seats. There's only limited options available. On sale now for the next 2-3 weeks. Those are the ways in which people can entice you to make a decision using scarcity. A recent example, or not so recent, was last year. Fly Safair had a 5 Rand flight going, but they had limited seats available. Now, of course, 5 Rand is very exciting because that's a great deal. And then there were limited seats. I think there were a couple thousand seats or a couple hundred seats. I can't remember. But they used that to be able to generate more sales and more revenue. That's the scarcity approach. Now, how would that work with property? Let's say that you're going to speak to an estate agent. I would go to them and I would say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. Estate Agent. I've got roughly R1 million that I'm looking to invest. And the first deal that gets accepted, I will move forward with. Now, what I'm saying to the estate agent is that I have money, but that it's limited, and whoever gives me the best deal first wins my business. So I'm trying to entice the estate agent. You see that a little bit of, there's limited situations here, and I'm taking it away from you. That's how the scarcity model works. Reciprocity, okay? Basically, what that means is people tend to give when they first receive. So before you try and take from someone, give. That's what this process is about. So an example, they did this great study in the US on a couple of restaurants, and they wanted to test if giving the customer a mint would have any kind of impact on their tips. So the first study, when the waiter gave a mint to the client, they got an increase in tips by 3%. So giving 1 mint gave an increase of 3% on the tip. When the waiter came back with 2 mints per person instead of just 1, the increase in the tip was 14%. And then finally, 21%. What happened is the waiter would come with the bill, give 1 mint to each person. He'd walk back towards the table with another bunch of mints and say, listen, guys, you guys were such great clients. Here's another mint each for you. And that's how they were able to increase the tips by 21%. So there's an example of how giving first gives you more opportunity to receive more in the future. A property example. One of the best techniques I have when trying to negotiate a discounted deal is go to the estate agent or to the seller with proof of funds. So it's a little document that you can get, a bank statement or some sort of approval in principle from a financial institution. You go up to the seller or to the estate agent and say, I'm in the market for R1,000,000. Here's my proof of funds. What I'm doing now is I'm showing them and giving to them first before asking in return, because that's going to take such a headache away from the seller. Most of the time sellers are distressed because they've gone through a couple of bad deals. They've gone through a couple of offer to purchases that have fallen through because they couldn't get access to financing. So they start to get more motivated because time is running out. What I'm doing here is I'm showing them I'm not going to waste your time. Here's my proof of funds before I ask you to commit to my offer. Social proof. Okay. This is herd mentality, right? Herd mentality. People like to follow other people. The example that I like to use is that of the pickup community. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but it's essentially a group of guys that try and pick up women, and they've got all these different techniques and whatnot to seduce women, if I can put it that way. And the one thing that I learned from this community is that when a male walks into, let's call it a nightclub, with 2 or 3 girls around him, he's got social proof to the other females in the nightclub that he's already been accepted by these 3 women, so they should also accept him. Right? I don't agree with what the pickup community does, but that's the concept of social proof. If you can prove that other people have accepted you, the people outside will also accept you. A property example, whenever I'm approaching an investor, for example, if I wanted to get some money from them, I would give them a business case of a successful deal that I've done before. And I would say, here, please call this person. I've worked with them personally, or I've used this person's money. I brought them a return of 15%. Please give them a call. Because what that investor is now going to do, he phones the other person, here's social proof that Lawrence did do a good deal and gave back the money. He might be more likely, or she might be more likely to lend me money. Liking. Okay. People tend to do business with people that they like, right? I think that's a pretty simple rule. There was also quite an interesting study done where a group of college kids were asked to negotiate online. Group A was asked to negotiate and they were told time is money. And Group B was told to negotiate, but they had to spend 5 to 10 minutes getting to know each other a little bit before doing the negotiation. Now, Group A came to a conclusion 55% of the time. Group B came to a conclusion 90% of the time. What is that telling us? Well, Group B took some time to get to know each other and to build some rapport, to get to like each other. And that's why they were able to negotiate far more effectively. In the property example, I think a lot of times what you're going to realize is that your first deal or first interaction with an estate agent won't lead to a deal. But over time, as you start to build a relationship, as you start to, spend time getting to know the estate agent and them getting to know you, deals do come through. I've found in my personal experience that, after 6 to 12 months of working with an estate agent, eventually we start to actually get to a deal that makes sense, and we move forward on that. Authority. Okay, people listen to people in authority, to qualified people. And a perfect example is, who are you going to listen to when you've got a health issue? Are you going to listen to Mrs. Susan or Dr. Susan? Right? That word doctor has a lot more weight because that's an authority figure. That's someone that we have been conditioned to listen to. Right? In the property example, when I'm working with an estate agent and I need to get them down to my offer, right? My offer is 2, 3, 400,000 rand less than what they want. I just whip out the Lightstone report and I say, I've reviewed the Lightstone report. I've looked at the last 3 comparables. I can see that the average resale value for this property is actually 1 million. And that's why I'm coming in at an offer of 950. So that's for me the quickest and the easiest way to get an estate agent down to my offer, because there's no disputing the Lightstone report. It's got authority. And then finally, consistency. Okay, people want to be consistent in words and in action. Okay, now one of the tactics that insurance salesmen use is this consistency tactic, which is crazy. So what these insurance salesmen are taught is they go to somebody's house. They obviously come in and they sit by the person's. They sit in the lounge and they've got basically a set of questions, about 50 questions. And these questions are designed to get the person to say yes. right? So it's something like, are you Lawrenceville? Yes. Are you 30? Yes. Do you live in Cape Town? Yes. And they ask all of these questions and they get through 49 of these really, really easy questions. And all of them are yes, 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 yes. Then question number 50 is, do you want to buy insurance products from us? Now, because I've said yes 49 times, there's a good chance that I might just say yes again. And that's the tactic that they used. Um, Terrible sales tactic, but I think it explains how, we want to be consistent in our actions and our words. The example that I like to use, especially when dealing with estate agents, is I'll say to them right up front on our first interaction, I'll say, guys, I'm not going to give you the offer that you're looking for. I'm not going to give you market price because isn't negotiation part of the game? Now, when they say yes, and they're likely to say yes, they are not going to be upset when you come later on and negotiate. And if they are upset, you can just say, listen, we spoke about this the first time we met. I told you that I was not going to come in at the right price, and I told you that negotiation is part of it, and you agreed. And then they'll have to or desire to be consistent. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is the art of persuasion. Now, what I want to do is we've looked at the social drives. We've looked at the persuasion techniques. What I want to do now is I want to take you into a section where we combine the two using a practical example of deals that I'm currently negotiating. Now, before I get into that, I just wanted to quickly make mention of a half-day workshop that we've got coming up. Very, very excited about this one. I'm actually just going to quickly put the call to action there. Just give me a sec. Okay, cool. I've just updated the call to action here. So this little button can take you there if you are interested in joining our workshop. So it's going to be a half day workshop on the 29th of August from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. over Skype. Unfortunately, we do only allow 30 people into our event just because it is quite a closed community. And what we're going to be doing is doing live deal analysis. So I'll be sharing with you some of the basics of how to calculate a return on investment. And then the audience will be bringing deals to the table and I'll be analyzing it live with you on the call. So if you are interested, just click that button below. It does cost 500 Rand. Go get yourself registered and I will see you there. Okay, now let's put this all together. We've looked at the social drives, the persuasion techniques. Now it's about actually how do we negotiate a discounted deal. Okay, so the process is very, very simple. Step one, determine the person's social style, whether you're working with an estate agent or a seller or an investor or anyone. Even if you're wanting to negotiate with your wife or with your husband or with your kids, first thing is you need to determine their social style. Step number two, apply the persuasion technique that works on that social style. Number three, create a follow-up system. Okay, create a follow-up system. So step one, social style. Very simple. Are they extroverted or introverted? Are they task orientated, people orientated? And very quickly, you can start to see who's who. Now, what I thought would be helpful is to take you through a practical example of one of the negotiations that I'm actually having at the moment. So I'm currently working with two estate agents looking at two different deals. One is a buy to let opportunity in Berea. Another one is a block of flats in Kenilworth, Joburg South. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can use these different communication mediums to read, listen, understand, and then apply the techniques. Okay, so the first agent, his name is Obi. Okay. Now, this was the first communication that I sent him. As you can see there, on Monday, the 6th of July at 5 to 11, through Property 24, I sent an email directly to Obi stating that I'm interested in this property. I'm a cash buyer. And please, can you answer these few questions? So you can see there that I've put, it's about 4 different questions. Those are the same questions I sent to all of my estate agents when looking at a deal. Now, Obi replied, as you can see there, on Monday, the 6th of July at 4:30 p.m. So that's just, 5 hours later. Now, I'm not sure how many of you on the call have actually, approached an estate agent, but usually you send 30 emails and you get maybe 1 reply. That's kind of the numbers. So for an estate agent to have replied within 5 hours, he's telling me a lot about him. right? What kind of personality do you think he is? Is he extroverted? Is he introverted? Is he task orientated? Is he people orientated? Okay. And now in his email, he answered all of my questions. He answered, what the rent is. He answered the expenses. Are they negotiable? What's the owner's reason for selling? So he answered all of my questions and he got back to me really, really quickly. Those two indicators are telling me that he's task orientated. Right? He's decisive, efficient, intense, results, systematic, logical. You can see he's following a process, right? So he's definitely on this side of the spectrum. I don't know yet if he's extroverted or introverted because I haven't necessarily had enough interaction with him, but I can quite confidently say that he's on the task orientation side of the social drive. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. The second example is estate agent Carlos. Okay. So I'm quite close with Carlos. I've been working with him for a couple of years, and that's why we actually chat on WhatsApp as opposed to Property 24. And here I'm looking at a block of flats, and you can see there I'm asking if he's got the rent rolls. Unfortunately, I only have access to 2.5 million. There I'm using a little bit of scarcity, by the way. So would they likely accept my offer, or would the owner consider? Now here, what Carlos's reply tells us who he is, okay? I can find out, but I highly doubt it. I know the seller quite well. We'll call him to discuss. Now, when you're thinking about, okay, he knows someone quite well, is he more task orientated or is he more people orientated? Right? He's more people orientated. Then I asked him another question because there were a lot of outstandings on his COJ bill. And he said, not really, Lawrence. He lives in Cape Town. He's not really bothered, to be honest. He has huge money. We were just asked to get a price which is reasonable for what condition they're in. Now, he seems to know quite a lot about this person, right? He lives in Cape Town. He knows that he's got a lot of money. He was just looking to get a fair deal for his seller. Can you see the difference is very clear? He's not task orientated. He's people orientated. So now the question is he an influencer or is he steady? Okay. Now, here's another text that I got from him, and this text made me realize exactly what his social style or social drive was. Hey, Lawrence, I spoke to the seller. Best we can do here is 2.75. When listed, we listed it at 2.9, and he said he wasn't very negotiable. He spent 350 on the building a year ago. This building is definitely worth a look if you guys are able to come up to the 2.75 price. Top building in the area, 3 units on each floor, so the units are impressive. Okay, so let's look at our, model. One thing that's coming through for me is he's very persuasive, right? It's a top building in the area. It's inquisitive. It's, you can see he's a salesperson, right? You can definitely tell that. He's also optimistic. He's looking at all the pros and all the positive sides of this deal. Another thing is I think he's quite thorough. He's answered several different questions and he's been, quite pragmatic in his approach. So what you can see here is that 2 of the points from the influencer have come on and steady has also come on. So I'm still not 100% sure where he fits until I see the difference between his orientation. He's more worried about the relationship with his owner than he is supportive. Can you see that? So based on that sort of high level analysis, I can confidently say, Carlos, he's most likely an influencer. I hope that helps you see through the different communication mediums, such as writing, how you can start to pick up on subtle cues. Is this person a dominant driver, an influencer, conscientious, steady? What are they looking for? What excites them? Okay. So that's step number 1. What's the person's social style? Once you understand their social style, you go to step number 2, the persuasion technique. Now, what I've done here is I've kind of mapped the social style with the persuasion technique. So on the left-hand side, scarcity, consistency, and authority work really well with task-orientated people. Okay. Social proof, liking, reciprocity work really well with people-orientated people. So you can start to see which ones we're going to use. So let's go back to our example of Obi. Now, if you remember, Obi sent the email about 5 hours later. So it was very much, on the left-hand side, very much task-orientated. So we're going to try a scarcity approach, a consistency approach, or an authority approach. Okay, so let's try it. This is the email that he sent us. Let's assume that we're trying to get an offer price of 200,000 Rand across the line, bearing in mind that this property is worth, I think it's about 320 or 350 is what it's on the market for. So I'm asking for a huge discount. Okay. So the scarcity approach would be something like this. Hi, Obi. I'm reviewing multiple good deals. I only have 200,000 available to spend. Therefore, that's my offer. Please get back to me ASAP. Otherwise, you might lose my business. Okay. Pretty simple. I've only got 200,000. I'm making a decision now. You're either going to get on board or I'm going to take my business elsewhere. I'm tapping into that scarcity element, right? Consistency. Remember, people want consistent business from you. So, hi, Obi. I'm an established investor. I'm proving my credibility there in the area with access to a lot of finance. If you can help me secure a 200,000 Rand offer, I'll bring more business to you. More consistency that starts to speak to Obi's his desire to have a good working relationship. Finally, authority. Hi, Obi. The deal seems okay. What I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to undermine the deal because of my authority, because I've seen so many great deals. This is just another average deal for me. In my Berea property portfolio, to be fair, I probably only own like 2 or 3 units in Berea, but he doesn't know that, right? What I'm trying to convey here is that I'm a huge investor and you need to listen to me. Does that make sense, right? So in my Berea property portfolio, I earn a minimum of 15% ROI, return on investment. 10 years of experience has told me that 200,000 is a reasonable offer. Okay. Now, each one of these three could probably work. Um, Based on what I know about Obi, which is very little, I'd probably go down the authority route. I think that one probably it's quite a stern message, right? It's quite a hectic message, but also I feel that it brings across the message in the right way. Now let's look at Carlos. Okay, Carlos is on the right-hand side. He's a people-orientated person. So he's going to respond to our persuasion techniques of social proof, liking, and reciprocity. Okay, so here is his message. Hi, Lawrence. I spoke to the seller, blah, 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 blah. Let's imagine that we are trying to get an offer price of 2.4 million across the line. Now they're at 2.75. That's their minimum that they're accepting. So I'm asking them to go an extra 350,000 Rand discount, which is going to be tricky. Let's see what options we have. So first of all, social proof. Hi, Lawrence. Sorry. Hi, Carlos. I've currently got an accepted offer to purchase for 2.4 million in a similar area. I prefer this deal, but my max is 2.4. I'm sure you understand the discount, especially with COVID. So what I've done there is I've said, actually, Carlos, I've already got another deal accepted at 2.4 in a similar area. It's a very similar deal. I'm showing him that I've got proof of already getting experience in this area. So I'm saying to him, you know what, I can do this deal, but I've currently already got a great deal lined up, even if I don't. Guys, remember, persuasion is, you're just trying to get somebody onto your way of thinking. So sometimes you'll need to say things that get them to agree with your perspective. So although I don't have another deal, I can say it to him and say, look, there's other great deals for 2.4 million. This one, I'll consider this one, but my max is 2.4. So that's a way in which you can bring a bit of social proof in. Liking. So here you just want to try and be nice and be friends. Hi, Carlos. Thanks for getting back to me. It's nice to work with a professional like yourself, hoping we can do business. With this deal, the best I can do is 2.4 million. I completely understand if this offer is too low, with a little smiley face. So you're just trying to be nice. You're just trying to build a relationship. See where it goes. And then finally, reciprocity. So this is when you give, first you're likely to receive. Hi, Carlos. If you can help me secure this deal at 2.4 million, I will commit another 3 property purchases with you. Help me win, and I'll help you win. Now, I luckily know Carlos very well, so I'd probably go with the reciprocity approach, and I would go, because I've already done a couple of deals with him, I'm sure he's thinking that I will do the other 3 purchases. So I know this is very high level, and it's not as practical as maybe that you would want. But I'm hoping that as you start to go through the journey of analyzing deals and putting offers forward and getting to this part where you actually need to start negotiating and finding a middle ground on price, that some of these techniques maybe could be of use. Okay, so we've done step number 1, determine their social style. right? Look for cues. Are they task oriented, people oriented? Are they extroverted or introverted? Okay. Number two, apply the persuasion technique that works on whatever group you're looking at. So if they're task oriented, look at the scarcity authority approach. If they are people oriented, look at the social proof, the liking, and the reciprocity. Step number three, and the most important step. Guys, if you don't learn anything from tonight's webinar other than this, then this has been a well worth it webinar. The key to getting a discounted deal is to follow up. Okay. Now, here are some stats. Okay. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. Okay. 25% make a second contact. And then only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. Okay, so what that is saying is that very, 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 very few people actually follow up, right? Let's say that first one, right? Somebody phones and they say, "Hi, I'd like to put an offer forward," and the estate agent doesn't answer, and they never phone back. You know, I can't tell you how many of my students who have sent one email to an estate agent requesting information, and they'll come to me in a coaching session. They'll say, "Lawrence, I didn't hear back from them. And that was like 2 months ago. So I assume the deal's gone." And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't you follow up? Why didn't you phone them? The winning is in the following up, because look here at the results. Okay. Those are the 2 points you need to focus on. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts, and 80% of sales are made when people make 5 to 12 contact attempts. So Carlos, who's sold me probably 3 or 4 buildings, I actually had to phone him about 7 times before we actually got to a viewing. All right, guys, that's part of this game. You're going to have to go onto Property 24, analyze 10, 15 deals, put 15 requests out there for more information, or sign 5 offer to purchases. You're going to have to constantly follow up and follow up and follow up. Here's some statistics from my year. Now, you can see here in the background, this is a quick dashboard of some of the deals that I've analyzed this year. Okay, so to put into perspective of how much work and follow up I had to go through to get a deal across the line. Look at this. Number one, to get one deal, I analyzed 60 deals, and I made verbal offers on those 60 deals. So I probably analyzed about 300 deals, and I was constantly sending messages to estate agents and saying, are they interested? Will they negotiate? Will they sell? Blah, 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 blah. Following up. Eventually, I made 60 verbal offers. Okay. Of the 60 verbal offers, only 20 resulted in a viewing. Okay, the other 40 estate agents never got back to me. And yes, I followed up, but also at some point you have to give up. So 20 viewings. The 20 viewings led to 5 signed offer to purchases, and only 1 was a successful deal. So what is this telling you? Well, number one, it's a numbers game. I mean, people constantly ask me, "Lawrence, how do you get a discounted deal?" It's the same as how do you get a girlfriend or a boyfriend? You go and ask a bunch of people until they say yes. I mean, that's how I got my girlfriend, right? I went onto Tinder and I got a whole lot of rejections, but I kept pursuing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually somebody, gave in and started dating me. So that's the same thing with property. Number one, you have to constantly pursue. It's a numbers game. Number two, you have to follow up, because 80% of sales, 80% of all the sales that are made are on the 5th or more follow-up. Right. I hope that makes sense, because that really, ladies and gentlemen, is going to change it for you. Here's just a quick snapshot of what my weekly schedule looks like. And I'd recommend, especially if you've got a full-time job, that you look at something similar to this. Okay. So Monday morning from 6 a.m. until 9 a.m., I like to batch my work. I like to do a whole bunch of similar tasks in one round of time. So my Monday mornings from 6 until 9 a.m., I'm focused on analyzing deals. Okay, so I go onto Property 24, I look at maybe 10, 15, 20 deals. I find the top 5 that I like. I send an email to that estate agent and I say, please, can you give me this information, blah, 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 blah. And then I put a little note a week later to follow up with that estate agent. I put their number there in the note, and a week later, I'll phone them to say, hey, did you see my email? Okay. On Tuesdays between 12 and 2 p.m., I focus on management. So this is where I'm phoning my current builders or attorneys or letting agents to find out what's happening with my current projects, right? Because you obviously have new business and then you have business that you're maintaining. Thursday from 4 until 5, I focus on phoning estate agents. So just for an hour, I've probably got a deal database of about 20 deals that I'm currently looking at. Every single week, I phone the estate agent, even if I irritate them. It's their job to deal with people like me. Does that make sense? I don't care if I have to phone you 30 times for you to listen to what my offer is or for you to get me my business. Also, remember, guys, you're the client. You are the client. You hold all the power. You are the person who's going to buy the property. So if the estate agent doesn't work to your needs, move on because you're the client. You're supposed to get some client services from them. Okay. And don't feel bad to follow up. I mean, yes, I sometimes have estate agents that just they don't even answer my calls anymore because I harass them. But you know, I also understand the game, and I want to win this game. And if I have to irritate a few people along the way, then so be it. And then Saturdays is mostly for viewing. Now, I'm not saying that this is the perfect weekly schedule. You got to find your own schedule, but make it a routine. Have a time in the week where you're just focusing on analyzing deals and putting verbal offers forward. Have some time in the week for follow ups. Please, please, please. You need an hour or two per week where you're just phoning estate agents or sellers or investors and you're following up and you're saying, hey, we spoke last week. We had this agreement. What's happening? Are we still on? Can we make a deal happen? Okay. And yeah, essentially, this business, my property side hustle, if you want to call it that, costs me 10 hours per week. So with just 10 hours per week, you can run a completely side passive business. You can still be full-time employed. I'm in the lucky situation where I have a couple of different businesses. So 10 hours goes to property. I put about 10 to 15 on online business. I do a lot of writing. I do these webinars and speaking. And that's, something that I'm always talking about is multiple streams of income. So hopefully, this has made a lot of sense. So the process, step 1, what kind of person are you speaking to? Step number 2, what persuasion technique works with that kind of person? Step 3, follow up until they say yes. Okay. Finally, once you've gotten the yes, a very, very key part of investing is securing that deal with an OTP, offer to purchase. Now, an offer to purchase is a legally binding agreement between a seller and a buyer. Okay. It must meet all suspensive conditions for it to be valid, and you need it to be able to raise financing. Okay. Now, the suspensive conditions are essentially ways in which you can get out of a contract. Now, this is very important. For me, an offer to purchase is a way in which you can secure your price. Okay. If you've got a notepad or a pen or something like that, just write that down. OTP equals me securing my price. Now, when people hear about OTPs or offer to purchase documents, especially my students, they'll come to me and they'll say, Lawrence, I'm scared to sign this. Doesn't this mean I'm going to be legally bound and I have to buy this property? And what if I don't want to buy the property? Or what if something goes wrong? Or what if, when I walk into the property, actually, I see there's damp on the roof and I no longer want this deal? That's why you need suspensive conditions. A suspensive condition is essentially an exit clause. So you sign the offer to purchase and it says that I'm going to buy this property for R1,000,000, subject to, boom, subject to a builder's quote, for example. Okay, so, that basically means that I'll buy your property for R1,000,000, assuming that when my builder comes in and quotes the property, it fits within my budget. If it doesn't fit within my budget, sorry, the contract is canceled. Does that make sense? Are you starting to see that you can secure the price at R1,000,000, add a few suspensive conditions, which allows you to exit the deal if something goes wrong? Now, these are some of the suspensive conditions that I like to put into place. The key one that I want you to focus on is the middle one, a subject to 2-week due diligence period. That one I use on every single one of my OTP documents. Why? Because what I'm asking for is I'm asking for a 2-week period where I can do some more information research. I can pull a TPN report, a Lightstone report. I can quickly go onto my property app and run the deal, run the numbers. I can get my builder in. I can get my architect or quantity surveyor in. I can set up a company. You can do all of these different things to set yourself up. 2 weeks is a long time. The 2 weeks can also give you time to go and find a private investor, you know. And if you don't find a private investor, you just go back to your contract and you say, actually, the due diligence period failed. I didn't like something that came out in those 2 weeks. So sorry, I have to leave. Okay. So the offer to purchase is for me. It's for me to secure my price, and I use the suspensive conditions to exit the deal. It's my way of getting out of the contract. Okay. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you use an offer to purchase. So it is 10 to. We're going to have a lot of time for questions, which is great. I'm hoping that you learned one, that everybody is unique and you have to look at how the people interact. You have to look at their social drivers and learn how to speak to that. Number two, the art of persuasion is getting someone to see things from your perspective. And then once you've got those two elements, you can start to negotiate. By combining your social drivers with the art of persuasion, you can negotiate a deal from an estate agent, an investor, a distressed seller. And finally, when you get to the point where somebody is willing to sign on the dotted line, you put together a nice OTP with some clear suspensive conditions and move forward with your first property investment. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we get into the questions, one more quick reminder of our half-day workshop. This is not necessarily an educational workshop. It's more of a practical workshop. So I'll spend maybe an hour or so just teaching you about the return on investment and cash flow calculations. But then what we're going to focus on is doing live deal analysis. So what you can do is if you just follow that link that we've got there at the bottom, it'll take you to this page, which is essentially the sign up page. You can watch this video, it's about 4 minutes, and it just shows you a little bit more about exactly what we do in terms of the live deal analysis. So you can see here that I use the My Property app to run the numbers of the specific people on the call, and you get to learn through some one-on-one time with myself. So if you are interested in that, please go and check it out. There's going to be a lot of deals to analyze. This, for example, is one of the deals that we will be analyzing. One of my students is busy working on this deal, so this will be probably the first deal that we analyze at that workshop. So if you want to know a little bit more about, how to run the numbers, how to use My Property app, how to, basically find the right area and how to do the due diligence on a property investment, please come and join us. It's going to be a great event. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only the potential of power. Action is power. Now, one of the things that I believe, guys, is that education should be free. So if you aren't already registered, please go and look at my YouTube channel. I post educational videos weekly. Everything that you pretty much need to know about property, I post for free on my YouTube channel. Go and enjoy, go and digest as much information as you can. I truly believe that knowledge should be free. Action, on the other hand, is where the power comes from. So we do also have a property coaching program. This is not necessarily so that you can get educated in property. The education is free. This is if you want someone to hold your hand and hold you accountable through the buying process. Now, these are the 4 coaches that we have: Neti, Clinton, Maungo, and myself. If you are interested in the property coaching program, or getting someone like myself or Maungo to be your coach and hold your hand through the process of buying a property, give us a call. Just email me there, lawrence@housebuyers.coza, with the subject coaching, and I will happily send you some more information. Fantastis. Cool. I think I've spoken enough. Let me get into some questions and answers. So, guys, before I answer the question, if you go into the question and answer tab, you can see that there is a voting system. And you can vote for the questions that you think are the most relevant or the most interesting. For the next 10 minutes, I'm going to answer a few questions, but I'm going to answer the top rated questions first, all the way down to the bottom. So there's a question that you think needs to be answered before, or you really want to know about it now. Awesome. I do see a couple of ahas here. Tandeka, Darren, awesome. Nice. I can see you guys have been working hard. You guys can I tell you, as soon as there's something free on offer, South Africans, we get so excited, hey, because we love it when it's free. When something's free, it's you know what I mean. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate that you're engaging. So let's answer some of these questions. Okay, Johannes, this is quite a long question. Let's have a look here. Do I need a lawyer to be able to partake in deals about property? No, you don't need a lawyer. Usually, what happens is if you want to buy a property, you're going to get a conveyancing attorney, and they are in charge of ensuring the transfer from the seller's name to your name is done correctly. When you want to get a property, you might want to look at a different structure, maybe a trust or a company, but then you would need an accountant. How can my current bond help me to add another property to my business? So the question you're asking there is a great question, Johannes. I would say go and look at my YouTube channel. I've got a question there around, or a video around how you can use the bank's money to build an infinite property portfolio. Go check that out. Yeah, that'll be great. Maureen, would you buy a sectional title with levies of over 2,000? Could it be an indication of how the body corporate is managed? Sure, Maureen, great question. So first of all, a levy of 2,000 Rand is high. Two issues with that. The first issue, I think that's going to affect the cash flow a lot. You know, if you're running the numbers, you're going to need a substantial amount of rent to be able to cover your bond, your rates and taxes, your levies, your maintenance, all of those things. So a 2,000 Rand is a very high assumption for me. Number two, the second issue, which you rightfully pointed out, is what is the body corporate doing that they have to charge 2,000 Rand per month? Now, for those of you who don't know, a body corporate is a group of people within a building that are tasked to manage and maintain that building. And they charge each of the homeowners a levy fee. So if you look at like a big building in a city, there's a lot of maintenance on that building, right? The painting on the inside and the outside, the lifts need to work. There needs to be payment for the security guards, etc. That is where your levy contribution goes to. Now, if you're seeing a levy of 2,000 Rand, it probably means that it's being slightly mismanaged. So I would definitely ask for the building financials and see, do they, why are they charging 2,000 Rand? I can't imagine. That's very high for me. So Marine, that's a red flag. Okay, Tandeka, does a buyer need to use the agent's OTP or can they use their own? Great question, Tandeka. So there's two options here, right? You're either going to be working with an estate agent or with the seller. If you're working with an estate agent, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you their offer to purchase document, which is fine, as long as you put in your own suspensive conditions. If you're working directly with the seller, the chances are very low that they're going to have their own OTP document. That's when you get to put yours in. That's a great bonus because you get to word the OTP in your favor. Okay, so if you can use your own OTP, I would recommend it. But just make sure you obviously speak to an attorney and get a good, solid OTP that protects both parties. Okay, Sudesh, how do I know the social drive if you have never met the person before? Great question. It's not always easy. I found that email and WhatsApp, as I showed you with Carlos and Obi, can give you some indications. Otherwise, a phone call is really important. You can just tell, is somebody focused on supporting you or getting to a result? If they're focused on supporting you, they're people focused. If they're focused on just getting the result, they're task focused. Are they someone who is loud and excited and fun? They're extroverted. If somebody is soft, quiet, reserved, they're introverted. And then you can start to plot them on the map. It's going to take some time. I'd maybe watch this the social drives video 1 or 2 more times just so that it becomes a little bit more natural. Okay, cool, Sudesh. Let's see here, Darren. Would you negotiate and approach a person the same, whether it is an estate agent or a property owner? Okay, so when I'm approaching an estate agent, I don't know if this is the right way. This is just my way, but I go very straight to the point with an estate agent. So I say to them, my offer is whatever it is, 1 million. The reason I got to that number is because 1, I'm a business. I want to make a profit. Number 2, I looked at Lightstone. These are my facts. Number 3, I looked at TPN. These are my facts. And that's why, for me, it's a business decision. There's no discussing it, right? But that's when I'm working with an estate agent. When I'm working with a distressed seller, it's all about empathy. It's about what are you going through, or what's happening? How can we help you out of this? I'm a big believer in karma. So if I come across a distressed seller, my intention is not to get the best deal. My intention is to help that person. Now, if helping that person means that I can buy the property at a discount, great. But if this person needs to, they're in a serious financial pickle, or let's say they can sell the property to an estate agent or to another seller for much more than I'm going to be able to buy it for, I'd rather than introduce them to my estate agent and say, you know what, go get your money's worth. Right? I think there are some battles you need to choose. Sometimes you want to be making money with estate agents. I have no problems. Guys, this is my business. This is my number. That's as high as I'm going. When I'm working with a distressed seller, it's really about what are you going through? How can we help you move forward? Whether that's with me or whether that's with somebody else. Okay, let's see here. If I may ask, who do you target between all these estate agent companies as a beginner in property? Because there are so many. So Darren, I think that's a good question. The first thing that I would start with is, what's your strategy? Number one. Okay. Are you looking at flipping? Are you looking at sourcing? Are you looking at rentals, multi-let, student accommodation? Because your strategy determines your area. Okay. And once you know your area, you have to find the top 3 estate agents in that area and target them. So, for example, my strategy is multi-lets. Now, there are certain areas where multi-lets work. One of them is Johannesburg South. So I went to Johannesburg South. I found that Landstar, Remax, and Pam Golding were the 3 biggest estate agencies there. That's where I started. Okay. So that's what I would say. Strategy, area, find the 3 best estate agents in that area, and you should be all good. Okay. Let's see. Stevens, how can I negotiate with an agent to use my own OTP instead of theirs? So Stevens, great question. Love it. Answer is you're the client. So actually whatever you want is what you want, right? If a estate agent doesn't want to work with you, so be it. You can take your hard-earned money that's hard to find and hard for estate agents to access. You can take it somewhere else. I think the property game really changed for me when I realized I was the client. Because sometimes these estate agents, they can be difficult and they can be rude and they can be unhelpful. And when you realize how many estate agents are out there and how many are out there that are desperate for your business and would love to work with you, you realize that you can actually just move on. So Stevens, my honest answer is put together your own OTP. If they say no, move on, or use their OTP, but then make sure you've got some good suspensive conditions. I don't really mind using another person's OTP because for me, the important part is how can I exit this contract if things go sour? And that's where those suspensive conditions come in. Okay, Tandeka, can I claim the educational costs for my business? So I'm assuming you're talking about the workshop. If your business is related to property investing, sure, why not? If you can prove that your business is going to improve because you're going on this training workshop, learning and development is definitely a tax deductible expense. Okay, let's see here. Guys, it is 7 o'clock, so I'm just going to take a quick minute here to thank everybody for being here. If you need to get going, I totally understand. I'm going to quickly ask Apollo. I'm sure you've already sent me a WhatsApp, but we need to quickly give out the prize to who's the most engaged person. Okay, so here we go. Finalists. Can I get a drum roll, please? I'm just assuming you guys are doing the drum roll with me. Okay, the finalists are Darren Sekoleli. Oh man, I sound like such a vito when I do that. Sekoleli. Sure. Tandeka and Vaughan. Darren Sekoleli, Tandeke, and Vaughan. So, of those 4 people, I'm going to ask a question. Whoever answers the question first gets the copy of my book. Are you guys ready? Darren, Sekolele, Tandeke, Tandeka, and Vaughan. The question is very simple. Okay. The question is very simple. What is the most important part of an OTP document? Whoever answers that question first gets a copy of my book for free. Okay, let's see. I think Darren's answered it. Aha, no, that's not the right answer. What is the most important part of a suspensive, of an OTP document? Come, let's see. I kind of gave the answer away there. Let's see who's got the quickest fingers. Who can type the quickest? Okay, well, in the meantime, for those of you who do need to get going, Sianda, sorry, guys, Maureen, you guys weren't in the finalists, but that is the right answer. So whoever of our 4 finalists, Darren, Tandeke, Vaughan, or Sekolele, whoever says it, sorry, dude, I'm probably butchering your name. Middle one. Not quite. Suspensive strategy. Okay, cool. Darren, you are the winner. You get a free copy of the book. Rapolo, will you just get his email address for me and then I will send him an e-copy? Fantastic. Okay, cool, guys. If you do need to get going, please do so. It's been great to have you here. There are still about 8 to 10 questions. I'll quickly answer them now. But if you do need to get going, please go. We are going to have this recorded and we will send you the recordings in the next few days if you want to go and check out anything that you might have missed. But thanks again for being here. For those of you who are still interested in the questions, let me go ahead and answer them. So Maggie, how do I buy cash deals if I want to use bank financing? So Maggie, it's a tough question because you can't really lie to the estate agent and be like, okay, I've got a cash deal, but wait, I first have to get financing. So usually what I do is I'll just say that I'm going to get a bank loan, but that I do have a lot of access to private investors. So if you need a cash deal, I can do one. So I almost phrase it slightly differently. Like, yes, I can do a cash deal, but I need to access that financing from my partners. And I first have to discuss it with them so that, if you can't get access to that cash, at least you have a scapegoat. Okay. Okay, how do you determine your offer before you go to the agent? You got to run the numbers, brother. So go check out my YouTube channel. Go look at the cash flow strategy and how to analyze a flip deal. And also look at the return on investment video that will show you how to analyze a deal to work out what your offer price is. Or just join us at our live deal analysis workshop where all of that will be answered. Okay, Sanjay. How does one improve one's credit score to improve chances of good loan offers? Banks seem very secretive as how they analyze each deal. Okay, great. So Sanjay, the banks look at three things. Number one, they look at affordability. What is your salary? What is your disposable income? So let's say you earn, I don't know, 20,000 Rand after tax, and your disposable income, which is, whatever's left after your monthly expenses, is 5,000 Rand. Times whatever that number is by 100, and that's your access facility into the bank. Okay, so in that example, you earn 20,000, 5,000 is disposable, times that by 100 equals 500,000 worth of bondability that you might have. Okay, that's the first step. Number two, they're going to look at your credit score, right? So how good are you at paying your Edgar's account, your Woolworths account, your banks, your credit cards, your loans, all of that? And they create a score. Obviously, if your score is low, go get that sorted out. It's surely because you might have missed a payment or whatever it is. I use a product called clearscore.com, www.clearscore.com. And that allows you for free to check your credit score and why you've got a potentially low credit score. So check that out. That'd be great. And then the third thing they look at is the deal, right? And the deal will have risks, etc. I recently recorded a video. It's going to be on YouTube soon. It's called How to Raise Infinite Financing from the Banks. It answers all of those questions. So Sanjay, just check out for that video. That'll definitely help you out. Okay. Can one edit the OTP from an estate agent to include your own suspensive conditions? 100%. Almost all OTPs have a section at the end of the document where it says other conditions. And then there's a few lines for you to input your conditions. So yes, every OTP will have that. Okay, let's see here. Since most banks do not finance a share block, I'm assuming you're saying multi-let, is there a way to structure a deal to convert the share block into sectional title, assuming the register is open? Okay, cool. So what you're saying here, and you're 100% right, is that if you're looking at a block of flats, the banks don't like financing a block of flats. Let's say you've got a small block of 10 units, okay? The banks don't like financing that, but they'll happily finance one unit within that block. So the question here is, can I sectionalize the block into 10 different units and then get a loan for each one of these different units? The answer is 100% you can. I'm not exactly sure. I know in the South, Joburg South, to sectionalize a block, it's about 5 to 15,000 Rand per unit. It will very much depend on the municipality that you're working with, by the way, and it will take about 3 to 6 months. So I think the important thing you've got to realize or find out is how much will it cost and how long will it take, and then you can make that decision, because you've got to include that in your numbers, right, to see if it's still a financially good deal. Okay, when do you draw the Lightstone report? Before signing the offer to purchase and making an offer, or after signing the offer to purchase? So, good question. I think when you're starting out on your journey, let's say it's your first or second, or maybe even your third deal, I would say pull the Lifestone report before signing the offer to purchase. I don't do that anymore, but it's just because I've done a couple of deals, so I know the area and I know what I'm doing. Um, but I think once you start to become more confident, you start to understand and know your environment a little bit more, you can start to become more risky because there's a bigger risk, obviously, in getting your Lightstone report after you've signed off to purchase. So my advice to you, if you're starting out, get the Lightstone report before you make an offer. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. We've got two more questions from Johannes and then we are done. How do you motivate a beginner not to be intimidated by numbers, especially when they want to tap into the business without capital? So yeah, I mean, Johannes, it is a good question, dude. Numbers is quite intimidating for everybody. There are very few people, I think, that get excited by numbers. Those are usually the accountants and the maths nerds in our midst. But what I can say is that if you're willing to take a little bit of time in understanding the numbers, you're going to become an incredible investor because numbers don't lie. Numbers are not emotional. Numbers aren't biased. The deal is going to have a certain number and you can trust that number. If the number's not good enough, you walk away. So, as much as it's intimidating to work with numbers, once you understand them, they give you the decision. So, I'd really recommend that you persevere. You need to know how to use the numbers to get started. Please go and check out my YouTube channel, man. It's full of free videos, full of all of this content. Go check it out. Okay, last question. Do I need a lawyer? Oh, actually, that was the first question I answered. Wicked. Cool, guys. Any other? Yeah, there we go. Any more questions? Anything else? I see there's still about 50 people on the call. If you have another question or two, please, guys, send it. Calvin, what an informative session. Thanks, dude. Glad you liked it. Darren, I will be sending you an email tomorrow morning with a copy of this little book right here. I hope that you enjoy it. So yeah, just email Polo to get your prize. Let's see here. Subject to a 2-week due diligence clause. That is the key thing you must remember. Suspensive condition. For those of you who are still on the call, would you mind just putting one word in the chat bar of what you learned tonight? I'd love to see what you're taking away with you tonight. Awesome. But yeah, how can we meet? Laquano wants to meet. Send me an email, lawrence@housebuyers.coza. Obviously, we're in lockdown, so don't think we'll meet in person, but I'm always happy to jump on a quick Skype or a Zoom call. Oh, another question's popped up. Caesar, can I use the CNA OTP for securing deals? The CNA? What's CNA? Sorry, I don't know if I know what CNA is. Oh, you mean like the shop? No, man. Like a PNA. No, man, don't use the CNA OTP. No, 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 no. No, you need to use the proper OTP. I think the CNA one is free, if I'm not mistaken. Not that free is bad. What I would do if I was in your shoes is I'd go and speak to a few estate agents, maybe go on Property 24, find 3 or 4 deals, and ask them for an offer to purchase. Say you want to sign an offer to purchase, let them send you their template, and then you've got a template instead of going to the CNA, because I don't trust the CNA. Letashi, Louis, do you invest in COC return, cash on cash return? If so, what's your minimum value? So yeah, I do use the cash on cash returns. It depends on the strategy, right? If you're looking at, for example, you're looking at buy to let, so one house, one tenant, a small apartment, flat kind of thing, I'll probably be looking at 8 to 11%. Obviously, with COVID coming in, it's kind of diminished my property returns, unfortunately. When I'm looking at multi-lets, 15% plus, and when I'm looking at student accommodation, probably about 20%, just because of the risk associated. Cool, thanks, Louis. Let us see. Anything else? Hi Lawrence, don't forget to do a tutorial explaining the scenarios on my property app. I am 100% on that, sir. It'll be up in the next week or two. Actually, at the next webinar, I'll be doing the scenarios. So thanks. That's, how do I pronounce your name? You say Stone from Bloemfontein, but your name is Sekoleli. Anyway, cool. Sanjay, the big light bulb moment was following up. Yeah, at the end of the day, as much as you want to call yourself a property investor, you're just a salesperson, right? You're trying to close a deal, and closing a deal requires follow-ups. Getting a girlfriend, getting a boyfriend requires a lot of follow-ups. It's the same process. Cool. What's that? Okay, cool, Stone. Aware, bro. Fantastic, guys. It's been an absolute pleasing pleasure and a privilege. It's already 7:15. I'm going to let you go back to your families and to your loved ones. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lots of free videos, and it's always going to be free. I believe education should be free, so why not go and get some of that education there? If you do want to join us for the live deal analysis, it's going to be lots of value. Just click that link below. Otherwise, I'll see you in about 2 weeks' time when we do our next event. Please, one more thing. If there is a topic you want to talk about, if you want me to talk like Stone asked me to do the scenarios, guys, please send me an email, send us a post, let us know what you want me to discuss, because I'm happy to keep it fresh. I'm happy to create new content. I want to be able to speak to your needs. So please, let me know what you're interested in hearing about. And if we haven't done it before, I'm happy to make something up as we go along. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your evenings. Chat soon.